Alright guys, hey, so this is the third installation of the videos on the 57 Chevy. So I'm working on a tutorial on how to properly prep and paint a model kit that you're doing a lot of heavy modifications to. So I'm going to switch the camera around here. So here is how our body turned out after the last couple of primer paint jobs. After the last two videos, I did one more fairly heavy coat to kind of make sure that everything was fairly well coated. You can still see right here, there's still like a little bit of a ghost line here on the trunk. I still do need to do a little bit of scribing on all the lines to make sure that they're nice and crisp. I did do some today. I did a little bit of wet sanding that I didn't have in the videos. But I'm going to kind of show you how you do the wet sanding. So I'm going to take this slightly used piece of 1000 grit sandpaper here, which by the way I use these right here courtesy of 25th Street Creations here in Brownsburg, Indiana. It's a really good hobby shop here at Gizmo's Galleria. They offer a lot of really nice accessories and products for model finishing. So this right here has 1200, 1500, and 2000 grit, which I'm not going to be using right here, but this other package here that I'm using has 400, 600, and 1000 grit. And 1000 grit, especially if you're wet sanding, works really well. So I'm going to dump this hood off here. And I'm going to walk over here to the sink and get some wet sanding going. My dog says hello. Hi, Disney. Anyway, so we're gonna get some kind of like lukewarm water going here, and I'm gonna sit this around here. There we go. That way you can kind of see what's going on here. So I'm gonna pressure down here. We got a nice wet sandpaper pad. And we're just going to kind of go over the body. We're going to apply like very little pressure. Like we're going to let the sandpaper do the work. We don't want to like rub through the paint or anything like that. We don't want to apply extra pressure. And our main goal right here is to get rid of any dirt nibs and any roughness to the surface of the primer here. And we're going to go over the whole body. And I've found that, you know, wet sanding works really well compared to just dry sanding stuff. A lot of people will do just dry sanding, but wet sanding really works well, especially when you're using paints like the Tamiya. Let's see here. So we're going to go, you know, anywhere where there's some roughness or maybe some areas you're having difficulty with, like blending, especially like back here where I was having some difficulties hiding the seam. You know, I did build up, I want to tell you right now, I did build up a couple of really thick coats of primer with a Tamiya fine surface primer along the sides here. And the thicker your primer, again, I talked in my earlier videos about using a thicker primer so you could sand that down. You can accomplish the same thing with multiple coats of primer. Yeah, it costs more, I guess. But, you know, this is, again, the primer that I currently have in stock in the house and I have to work with, so I'm going to use it so I can get this done instead of going out and buying something else. Money spent elsewhere versus, you know, something you already have. So, and again, you want to be really gentle with this and kind of allow the sandpaper to kind of form to the contours. Flat sticks, I feel like the stuff that's kind of shaped like a nail file are really good for doing like a broadside, like sanding to make sure something's nice and flat. But when you're doing the final sand, this is called kind of the contour sand. You know, you're allowing the sandpaper to kind of form to the contours of the body so that you're not taking off anything extra in areas that are raised compared to the low areas. Let's see here. And I feel like there's probably not going to have to be a whole lot of filling after this wet sand coat here. It's probably going to look pretty nice. we'll examine this after it's done and see if we need to do any more filling, or if we can step up to our next grade of sandpaper and do our final base coat for our paint job. Let's see here. There's a couple of areas in here, like, you know, the back edge of the roll pan area, and collect some water that you want to make sure that you get dry. I have an air compressor out in the garage that I don't know if I'll show it in this video or not, but I'll probably just hand dry this body in this video, and then take it out to the garage and blow out all the air, let it dry. Just an FYI too, this paint has been drying for 24 hours, so basically since my last video. So it's nicely cured. I haven't put in a dehydrator or anything. I don't feel like that's necessary for a lot of the Tamiya paints. They dry pretty quickly. I feel like some of the more glossy paints, like the clear coats and stuff like that, you might want to use a dehydrator for. But in general, it's also easier, like when they're like 90% cured, to do a wet sand on them, I suppose. So I think we're about done here. I'm very closely examining areas where there was like anywhere where there was a seam. So I don't know if you can see here, but this area where there was a seam, you know, this angled area back here. Same with this side here, right here. This side looks pretty nice. There's a little bit of wet sand that some more. Again, wet sanding is like just such a godsend for making everything really nice and smooth. It works a lot better with stuff like the Tamiya paints than it does, again, with the more enamel-based paints like you get at department stores. That's just a lot harder to sand through. Again, I feel like it's a lot of wasted time working with those paints. And again, we're just kind of following the contours of the body, getting in some difficult to reach areas. Then you want to use lukewarm lukewarm water when you're doing this. Turn that down here. This trunk area is especially a difficult area to get into. You just want to you don't want to press too hard. You want to let your finger and the sandpaper kind of conform to the body. Alright, so we're going to set the sandpaper aside, let it dry, put the water off here. Alright, now hang on one second here. We'll dry the body off. Now this kind of concludes this wet sanding segment. Again, I don't have a video editor right now, so I'm just kind of doing this stuff straight off my cell phone. Kind of raw, really quick and easy way of uploading videos and showing you guys how to do stuff. Maybe later I'll get into doing video editing and stuff like that, make it look more professional, but anyway, the main goal here is for you guys to kind of learn along with me how to get a really nice paint job. I want to show you something right here. I don't know if you can see this in the video. Maybe right here. You can kind of see just a very slight bit of a ghost line right here. Now, I can't physically feel this with my finger, but I can see it. Now, that might need a little bit more filler. And the only way that we can really tell that it's probably going to be to lay down either a color coat or another coat of primer. I may end up having to just lay down a color coat to see if that's going to show up or not. I can't really see it on the other side. The other side looks like it's very, very well blended there. Same with the front here. That's nicely blended. Again, this is stuff I can see, but I can't really feel. And also, keep in mind, you're sanding through some of the primer coat that I just laid down yesterday. So, anyways, So this is the third video here. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe my videos, please, if you could. It'll kind of help me out. And I'm not really doing this to make money. I mean, it would be nice, but I'm not really doing this to make money. I'm doing it because it's fun and it helps me connect better with my model building community. And I really like to give back to people. I've not been building models for a while. I'm going to flip the camera. Models for a while. The last really serious custom model kit I did was when I was 12 years old. I'm in my 30s now, so it's been a while since I've actually, broke out the, the body filler putty and really seriously went to town on really carving up something. And it's a lot of fun, and I just want to share this with you guys. And there's a lot of people out there that just kind of like are getting started and just don't know, like maybe they don't have the confidence or anything like that to start something and like really bring the knife out and like really start cutting on the stuff. And that's kind of what my videos I want to be for, is to kind of give people the confidence to do that. Also, I want to show you, speaking of all the cutting that I had, switch this around here. So what you guys don't know about this car, because I kind of just jumped into this and just started this. Well, I started these videos like after I started working on this thing. So this 57 Chevy here, if you can see, the side of the box here. So they originally had these three little chrome portholes right here at the front of the fenders, and they had this long chrome strip that went down the side, and then it had this strip, and then had all these fins inside here. All that stuff was molded into the body, and also the original wheel well flares. And I sanded all of that off, and actually I started really rough. I just cut all that off with my X-Acto knife right here. I just started scraping and cutting all that off, and then I started sanding it until it was smooth as can be, and then started using the filler. Obviously, I started using the filler after I glued on the optional custom parts, the cat eye front end and the rear roll pan and everything. And you can actually see inside here where the original trunk lid, I don't know if I can point at it here or not with the camera. Yeah, there we go. You can see right here where I'm pointing here. This right here is the end of the car. Like that would have been, kind of like right in here somewhere. So this was the end of the original body, and this whole piece, like you can see the filler panel in there, how much was extended onto that. So there's a lot of modifications that I did here. Again, a lot of it was just scraping off all the trim. Old customs back in the day, they got rid of a lot of trim. They made, simplicity was the beauty of the custom, essentially. So, minimal side trim to accent the beauty of the car. So, I'll drop this on the floor here. But anyway, so there was a lot of stuff that I did to this thing before I got to this point, and now we're finally doing the final body work and the filler, and it's a time-consuming process to make a really nice looking custom. It really is. Again, I'm not a professional. I don't see model building as a profession. I feel like model building should be fun. I don't feel like you should be doing it to be super competitive. I'm probably going to enter this car in some shows. I don't expect to win. I expect just for people to come by and look at it and go, wow, that's really cool. I don't even care if they pick it apart and go, oh, well, there's a flaw here and there's a flaw there. The important part to me is that I had a lot of fun building this, and I feel like it's going to look really good. And even if not everybody finds joy in looking at it, I know that a lot of people are probably going to find joy in looking at it and going, wow, there's a lot of creativity that went into this. So that's kind of my main goal for this particular build. So anyways, looking at the wet sanding here, I feel like this turned out pretty well. I'm a little tiny bit skeptical now that I have this in the light. it's kind of hard to focus on this here. I still can see, yeah, you can see that right there. You can still see a little bit of what I feel like might be a slight sink mark there that might require some more filler and primer. Again, I know I'm going the hard way on this, but I know that in the end this car is going to look really great. There's some other things too I'd like to address here before I move on to the next video. So this is kind of my mock-up chassis with not the wheels or anything like that I'm going to use. I just kind of stuck the interior tub on the chassis. By the way, this thing is slammed as far as it can go in the front. Yes, I am doing old school. I know this is this is a period correct build. This is not going to be like an ultra detail thing where judges are going to look at it and go, oh wow, there's a straight axle going through the engine block. Yeah, you know what? I really don't care. It's still going to look cool. It's still going to be a one-piece chassis with the exhaust molded in and everything like that. I'm not going to cut any of that stuff out. The rear axle here, I have already cut this down. I'm going to take the wheels out of it here. Well, hang on a second here. So, the rear axle, I don't know if you can see here, I have cut it right where the shackles would go, and I've essentially de-arched the springs, which was an actual real custom hot rod trick or street rod trick back in the 1950s and 60s, and I've taken out as much material as possible between the axle and the springs and then re-glued it back together. You can kind of see the seam a little bit better right here where I did that. Again, these were chrome plated from the factory, which is fun. I've sanded all the seams and on this and everything, and once I've done my final detailing on this, this is going to get sprayed with the fantastic Revell chrome spray. And I'm a little bit torn on the chassis here. You guys might tell me what you think. My plan on this was to do the body pan, which you can see, all the way around here, in body color, which is going to be that kind of like jade metallic, light green color. And then I was going to chrome plate all of the frame rails, the gas tank, spare tire cover, do the exhaust in either a chrome or an aluminum, and do some of the suspension components in a chrome. Very typical of like 1950s and 60s show car customs that were like wild and over the top, not something you would daily drive, just like crazy over the top show cars. But this is going to be a challenge being a one-piece chassis right here. Like more detailed kits, the chassis is molded separate from the pan, and you could just easily, spray paint the chassis in chrome if you wanted to, and, paint your exhaust and everything. But in this case, I may have to paint the chassis with the body color and then use like a paint-on masking. I do have some paint-on masking here, which is, I have the micro scale micro mask, which I could probably use along with some tape, some creative taping, and so once the color code is dry for the chassis, I can do that, and then do the chrome paint on the actual frame rails and all that. So anyways, it's still a long way from being finished, but getting the major body work out of the way is a huge thing here. So anyway, look out for the next videos, and hopefully in the next videos I'm going to have most of the body work done and we'll be ready for our final paint, and I'll show you how to lay down a really nice glossy paint job, very smooth Tamiya paint job, and then lay down some ultra 2K clear on top of that and get a really, really sweet paint job, and we'll be done with that, and then we can move on to like the more detailed stuff. Thanks, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.